The Nightcap Chat Podcast. Your home for pop culture related nonsense. Only on the Nightcap Chat Network. Grab your nightcap and settle in. Here are your hosts.
And welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. Got a fun episode for you guys today. We are talking good and bad TV show endings. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
I'm Steve Brown.
And of course, before we dive into it, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen, like, share, subscribe to Nightcap Chat. We appreciate all your support. And thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and, well, I guess more specifically, listening to Ink and Paint. Having them on the Nightcap Chat Network has kept us a little more consistent than we would be by ourselves. So thank you, Steve and Jay, and also Ken. Ken was on
Did you guys hear the Ken one? It was awesome. Because Ken is so freaking good at knowing obscure nonsense in comic books. It's so weird. Like Jay on there in the middle of the show was like, Ken, I could listen to you talk about this all day. It was really fun.
Like
that's
in a
what
romantic kind of way.
Oh, I felt a little bit of romance. I definitely did.
Ken has that effect on people. And that is why we are gravely missing him this evening as he prepares for Free Comic Book Day in downtown Glendale at 5801 West Glendale Avenue on the corner of 58th Avenue and Glendale Avenue in downtown Glendale, Arizona at Drawn to Comics. Free Comic Book Day is this weekend, May 7th. So if you need a place to go get those free comics. It'll be a lot of fun stuff.
Well,
okay.
I want to stop by. I want to stop by.
Shameless plug.
Oh, you're going to edit? You're going to end this?
No. Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
Anyone want to touch on anything before we dive right into our fun little topic here?
Free Comic Book Day, one of the biggest days for a comic book shop owner, since it's like a national big thing.
Gosh, that's a great question. I think it really depends on the comic book shop. Drawn to Comics in particular, it really does it up, and they have lots of guests and vendors and exhibitors. And I just saw they're having this ice cream thing, and so if you look at Drawn to Comics, it's Drawn to Comics all one word on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. To see all the events. They do stuff in the park across the street, in the library. As far as the shops in the valley, like they really do it up. And I know Ken's my friend and co-host, but I mean, no BS.
I mean, I'd say it's probably the place to be too. Like, I don't think there would be a busier day of the year per se.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Is that like the Black Friday of comic book shops?
I'd say it probably puts up similar numbers, right? Or definitely foot traffic. Like,
I don't know.
Because Free Comic Book Day, technically, it's just that day. You know, like Black Friday shop. I mean, you can. Let's be honest. I mean, there's so many people going everywhere. True. Everyone's gonna be only going. There's only Free Comic Book Day at the comic book store. You know, so I think it's probably the busiest day. You know.
Did you guys hear the big news though that Ken is going to be on the panel for my movie themed, my movie theater discussion at Fan Fusion on May 28th?
We call it Phoenix Comic Con here.
We do. You know what? I keep on saying that, except when people look it up, they're like, we can't find it. We find this fusion thing.
I know. I'm too much of a pain in the ass.
Well, Ken was happy enough to join the panel. So he'll be sitting on there with at least one former executive at a really cool theater. She doesn't, I think they had a bitter separation just this last week. So I don't think she wants me to say where she used to work. My mom is coming on here, who does have the record for most movie tickets used in AMC, Arizona or Phoenix greater history. She goes like 5 nights a week. She's a lunatic. So we'll talk to her about it. And Ken is joining on as a comic book / movie aficionado. So we're going to go up there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds fun.
It's awesome.
I haven't bought tickets yet, but I will most likely be there.
Most likely, I'll smuggle you in. If you have some issue with buying a ticket, I'll pretend that you're holding a thing for us. You're loading popcorn for the panel. If you're gonna take a stance against Fan Fusion, I'll help you get in because I would love to have you there.
No, it's not, and nothing like that. It's just I don't know.
Because I have a joke written for you. I really want you to just start yelling the address of where Drawn to Comics is right in the middle of the panel.
5801 West Glendale Avenue.
That's what I want. I want that so bad.
I can work it in. I'm always frosty for that. But we got a fun episode tonight. yes, Phoenix Fan Fusion is coming up, and maybe we'll report back, maybe we won't. We'll see. We'll see where the wind and everything takes us. So today we're talking about what, Lance?
Nothing. The wind. That's all.
Yeah, the wind. You know,
There's
the wind.
trees.
Oh my God, you guys should see this on video. He was just like swaying back and forth. I loved it.
That's very good wind.
I'm a good tree in the wind. I'm like a palm tree.
It's gonna flow like water.
Oh,
So today we're talking about good and bad endings of TV shows. So sometimes, I mean, a good ending or a bad ending can ruin a TV show. And sometimes, maybe it doesn't matter. I've been watching a lot of 90s TV lately. I recently just finished Seinfeld again. And I have a confession. I can't
Tell me
believe-
you've never seen the last episode of Seinfeld.
I have. No, absolutely I have.
Oh,
Absolutely
okay.
have. I saw it live when it premiered. And I was really disappointed with it in the late 90s, early 2000s, whatever it was. But after stepping away for a long time and watching it now as an adult with my adult mind and my adult eyes and my adult ears, what else were they going to do for that ending? Honestly, because everyone did so many just crappy things to all these people. It's not like they were like going to like real prison for a really long time. Like it was just kind of a silly like little recap and like, look, like you got away with doing all these really terrible things to a lot of people. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, I actually don't mind the Seinfeld ending.
I think it's just anticlimactic. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad ending. I just think it was just kind of like, oh, well,
that's fair.
You know what I mean?
But for a
Like,
show about nothing, it was supposed to be, should have been relatively about nothing.
It definitely could have been way worse. Like they could have
Yes.
killed them. They could have went to prison forever, or like it could have definitely been way worse.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if I would have even wanted a sad send off. Like, you know how like Friends, it was just like depressing. If you watch Friends, like it was just like they're all saying goodbye and they're all moving away. And it's like this is just like heart wrenching, and I don't want to watch this because it's just upsetting. Like I think I almost would have rather it just ended like something silly like that, because it was kind of hard to even like keep up with the last few episodes of Friends.
So I watched it live and it ended in 1998, Blade.
Okay.
And it still is it's tied for my favorite show of all time. I've seen every season, I would say between 15 and 30 times. I don't know. And every time it's on TNT or TBS, I just rewatch it. It's one of those ones, Blade, it's like your Office. If I'm flipping through and it's on there, I'm committed until it ends. For the longest time, do you remember it used to be on 3 TV here and it was on from like 9 until 11?
Yep.
I swear I got divorced my first wife because I just would turn it on and watch 2 hours of Seinfeld every single night. And it was brutal because it's the greatest show. I totally don't think the ending ever was that bad.
Really?
I always kind of dug the ending.
You were
I
ahead
thought
of
it
your
was
time
goofy.
then, man.
I'm not trying to be hipster like that. When it ended, I'm like, oh, cool. Good run. And I saw everyone hating it. I'm like, is it really that bad? So I've rewatched it a bunch of times and I always just thought it was goofy. The one thing I thought was weird was ending it on a clip show vibe. That was kind of, I've never thought of a show ending on a clip show. Usually that's like a mid-season kind of break or whatever. So I always thought that was weird, but I always kind of liked that. I thought it was hilarious. Also, I looked up multiple times that law to see if it was real about watching somebody get robbed from across the street. Because I was like, wait, did they invent that? Or is that a real thing? So it is a real thing, by the way.
And it was in Massachusetts, right?
It was in Massachusetts.
I think that's part of the thing was the funniest part is that the show that takes place in New York ends in Massachusetts of them going into jail, like the New Yorkers going to jail. It's kind of funny in that perspective.
I didn't
honestly
even
never
think about that.
Nope, me either. But I love this show, and I don't mind the ending. And I'm not even trying to be hipster. I just never really understood the hate. I'm like, it was kind of cute and goofy. Like, That's what the whole show is. It's not as good as the Frogger episode, or my favorite episode of all time, which is Giant Ball of Oil. That's by a landslide. I think it's my favorite 30 minutes of TV ever. I just laughed the entire episode.
It's hard to pick. There's so many good episodes.
Great show, but I don't mind the ending.
The Junior Mint, the Chinese restaurant.
It's all.
Yeah, there's
the Junior Mint. You know what I love about that on a rewatch is the sound that it makes when it goes into the getting the surgery. That sound is insane. It's like someone dropped a marble into pudding. It's like this. It's the weirdest sound, and I always laugh at that part. Like I get ready for it. I'm like, here it comes, and I'm already crying.
When George has the toupee. She rips it off his head. I don't like this thing. And this is what I'm doing with it. She throws it out the window.
Yep.
You know what's a little weird? Seinfeld fact for me personally. I vividly remember. I think it's. Gosh, I just watched all this. I think it's at the beginning of the Summer of George when he's staying at home, and he has his voicemail. Right? Isn't that the Summer of George?
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
George isn't at home. Yeah.
Please, believe it or not, I'm not. So I thought, first of all, when I was young and not understanding the reference, I thought it was hysterical. I remember dying laughing, and I remember you dying laughing too, Lance. And I remember singing it. And I remember just thinking it was so stupid and silly.
Remember, that's how we recorded our phone at home. Our parents had us say, believe it or not, it was me and Blade singing when we were 7 years old.
Right. Oh my
singing
gosh.
On the telephone for our house phones leave a message after this tune.
Yeah. So for you kids, used to have a little voicemail box on your landline phone, so you had to record voicemails for it. Anyway, I did not know until I was a freaking adult that was a reference of the song from. Oh my gosh, I just lost it.
It's not Golden Girls. It's what's it called?
It's what's it called?
Yeah.
It's like Texas, not Texas. Dallas, not Dallas. Is it Dallas?
I don't think it's Dallas, but no.
It's some older TV show theme. I didn't know he was singing the theme to an older TV show. I didn't get that. I wasn't aware of the other TV show. Anyway.
What is this? Blake, this is annoying as hell.
It's from The Greatest American Hero.
Oh, I was way off. Okay.
If you listen to the theme song, it's the same beat and stuff. That's what it's supposed to be. Anyway, I never watched it, so I didn't understand it. I thought it was interesting. We'll move on.
Yeah, sorry. I was obsessed with finding out the truth.
Yes, The Greatest American Hero.
Well, I am a huge fan. It's like I said, it's my favorite. And Lance has the best analogy out of all of them. So I have 4 written down, and I know that everyone here at least has seen or knows what's going on. I have a feeling that one of these ones is going to be very controversial to you guys. Blake, can you do Lance, can you do yours? Because I'm stuck. I want to talk about this one so badly.
Okay. You're talking about Dexter, right?
Oh, so badly. I want to talk about this.
Dexter ended terribly, right?
Which
time? Great. The first time. What do you mean?
They released another season and it ended again.
I didn't even see it. Have you seen it, Steve?
No, I refused to because I was too upset. But my ex did because we watched it together while we were together before I ruined it with Seinfeld. And she says it's good, not great. And they purposely leave it open for his kid to now be a new character. So
stop.
Yeah, and I know the new ending because I don't care.
Well, I don't know it. And I never, honestly, Blade, I never even cared to look it up. That's weird, right?
Yeah, I think that shows you how bad the ending is.
What's weird is I tried to watch Dexter and I didn't like it. And I know both of the endings.
I honestly don't watch Dexter isn't up my alley. I don't know why I even kept watching it. I don't know if it was like watching a train wreck because it's that type of thing isn't really my forte. But then I ended up watching it with Alicia and ended up watching the last couple seasons. And then, the last couple seasons are actually terrible though. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's not just the last how they ended it. Like the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think, are just terrible.
anything after
terrible.
anything after the Trinity Killer is bad.
Right.
So, and that it is what it is because it's such a fantastic character played by John Lithgow. And it's one of the most amazing season finales, I think, of all time, in my opinion. And it's definitely one of the most highest rated. But you're right. After that, it's hard to top that. But there was a season with Colin Hanks that I liked a lot. I dislike Lance. What's her name? The girl that comes in that's like almost like his Padawan for a season. And Julia Stiles.
The Spanish girl?
No, Julia Stiles comes in, and Julia Stiles I dislike as an actress very much. I've never liked her in anything. I don't understand her appeal, but she came on and crushed that season. But it's not a widely loved season. The total ending it is one of the worst 2-episode arcs of anything I've ever seen. I mean, that last 30 minutes was like unforgivable. And that's when the new one came out. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't care. And I didn't even look it up. So Blade, I want you to say what happens. Cause I mean,
I'm not going to watch it. So,
okay. Yeah. So just, so the original ending is what? He
becomes a lumberjack.
Yep. Okay. So this new ending.
By the way, just saying that, Lance, sounds dirty, doesn't it? He becomes a lumberjack.
His son kills him.
What?
Yep.
Because he's bad?
That's all I remember. His son kills him.
If it's not because he's like turned evil or something, that's just stupid. Or he's dying of something. I don't know.
No, I thought it was more of okay, like he's a serial killer too thing. I don't know.
Um,
or like his sons kill him because his son's a bad guy.
Because it's part of him. He is a killer too. He's got the same sociopathic tendencies, I'm assuming.
And I didn't watch it. I just know his son.
Yeah, he's just. Yeah, and honestly, the actor that plays him, hey, this is to our conversation earlier, has got to be the most D-list actor of all time. He was in like a couple of episodes of random TV. So his name is Jack Alcott. I've never even heard of him.
It's because nobody wanted their reputation to get thrown out.
Yeah. He's like the producers.
And they're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. I have a nephew that could play the role. He won't care.
Hey, that's how those things work sometime, though.
Yeah, look at Bluey. That's just their little kid. That was their producer's children. And
that is not going to end up on this list because Bluey is freaking gold. But okay, so the point of the conversation that started. Do you regret watching Dexter? Because out of its 7 seasons or whatever on Showtime, it ended in the worst possible way ever. And the show went from 2006 to 2013. It's pretty close. Yeah, 7 years. No, wait, no. 6, whatever. What's a total of 96 episodes? Do you regret your time invested?
No.
See, I agree with you. The ending sucked, but that Trinity season was so exciting and fun. It was good.
But then it's also like you learned a lesson too, like
don't kill people.
It ended bad, but I didn't mean that.
A personal lesson.
A personal, So from the serial killer, I took a lot of moral things out of this show from a guy who went around slaughtering people. Yeah.
The more you know.
No, but sometimes you got to watch something that's a train wreck and you'll still appreciate it at the end. I the first 3-4 seasons are great. And it's I guess you just can't take away that. I don't know. I think like Blade said before we started, I think it matters what genre it is. Or if you're or if it's something that's something that was a book and it ended bad. I think there's differences when it comes to what it is. Cause it's how am I investing my time? With Dexter, I was watching the product and that was it. There was no I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to do all this crazy stuff and try I wasn't that into it that I was wasting other time outside of just the sitting there and watching it time. Whereas I think some other things, you're not only are you watching it, but you're reading about it. You're doing, you're buying all doing all this crazy stuff. I think there's a difference. And correct me if I'm wrong. it's also like I don't think there was like that much like Dexter merchandise. You know what I mean? Like you're not investing money in other things of the show. Where it was just like it's just a show.
Right.
So I think
outside
it's
of
a
your
little
Showtime
different.
subscription, that was pretty much it.
That was it. So I guess it's hard to say that like I would have regretted it. I could have stopped.
Which, to your point, the couple of other ones I have on this list are dramatically different because they were heavily merchandised. So you're right. There's a different level of like involvement. Here's the question I have. So one of my all-time favorite movies, which people either love or hate, is Vanilla Sky. And here's a quote. Just remember, the sweet is never sweet without the sour. And I know the sour. So is that what you're saying? Like, okay, you learned your lesson. I got it. But now doesn't it make everything else better? Like, okay, so this can't be as bad as the ending to Dexter.
Right.
Because that's exactly how I think about it. I'm like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you nailed it on the head with that.
So do you want to just jump right into the big one here?
One more comment is another thing with Dexter is Dexter was designed for TV, and they figured they were ended eventually, but they weren't necessarily working toward anything specific, which seems apparent from the way they ended it. But they were more worried about they had a good concept for something that could be episodic and have these story arcs. So they might have had a few ideas in mind, and not like something like Game of Thrones where it's based on books with a definitive ending and a definitive ending that could potentially ruin the entire mythology.
But the books weren't even done yet.
They were.
That was part of the problem, wasn't it? And then people.
Well, didn't they say that the writers of this on HBO? By the way, I'm saving my big one then for a little while because it was the perfect segue to what you just said. But I'm going to make it work later.
Sorry.
Didn't the screenwriters work with the book guy and they said as long as it ends here, however you get there can be.
He was involved to some sort, but then I think now he's saying. I don't know. I stopped following because I just don't care enough. But I know he was involved with the creation of the last season because it was going past the books, and he wasn't even like they weren't.
He wasn't even there yet. Yeah.
And
I thought that the agreement was as long as it ended with the kid that can't move being like the whatever we're calling it. I forget the name of it, but and him and they got here and these people survived. However you got there, and I always thought that was really cool. If the creator of this thing says, as long as we end here, how you get there is great. As long as we get here so that we can end in the same place. I kind of love that, except when one of them goes first and it's universally panned as like the worst ending of all time. The writer of the book is going to be like, well, I'm not taking that route. Screw that. I'm going to distance myself from this as much as I can, right?
Well, I mean, also he was getting paid. George R.R. Martin was getting paid, right? So... money talks, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I mean, we don't know for sure, but to what point was he just kind of whatever? And the writers for Game of Thrones, they got some other kind of gig during that last season, so they also didn't really care, as much as they should have. I thought they got picked up for Star Wars, which also they just got dropped right after for.
Oh my God. And do you remember how big of a deal it was when they signed them? Mm-hmm. It was like, oh my God, it's Rian Johnson and now they're making their own series, their whole world. It was like, we're going to that's not the first time Star Wars has done that, by the way. They've done that multiple times. Colin Trevorrow is a victim to that too.
I had a crazy conspiracy theory. I don't know if I ever said it on Nightcap Chat. But Josh Trank directed the really bad Fantastic Four movie. And during around that same time period, they announced that he was going to direct a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And so I thought for sure, I was like, Marvel or Disney, whoever said, you blow this Fantastic Four movie and we'll let you direct Star Wars. I thought for sure that's what happened until they dropped him, and now I'm not sure.
and honestly, I think they've done that with other people too.
Yeah, they have.
I think they tell people, hey, listen, you're going to be over there. I'll come over. We'll do a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie. Just make sure that thing bombs, and then your reputation will get right back because you just did a blockbuster. You know what I mean? I think they do that all the time, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but like sometimes it's like, man. Because it works out too well. Because like that Fantastic Four movie being as just the stupidest, just terrible movie ever, and then they just get the rights to it, and it's just like it's just, it works out too well.
Not to go into this because we have other stuff. Do you remember why Josh Trank got fired? Because he's a genuine piece of garbage.
No, I did not.
Really?
I didn't know that there was a reason.
Oh, huge reason. It was all over the place. I was a big Josh Trank follower because he directed and I think co-wrote Chronicle, which I think is one of the best superhero movies made of all time. I love it. It's a fantastic film. So I was a fan of his, and he's like, it's you, young guy. On the set of Fantastic Four, they were filming it together with, I think, another Marvel movie. I can't remember. Him and his friends would get drunk, and his friends are all late 20s, and they would get drunk and come on the set and play with all the props and dress up in the clothes and be just hammered multiple times. The lighting crew would show up at 5 a.m. to go get ready, and they'd be passed out literally on sets that we've seen in movies before, like big time sets, and they'd just be hammered. And then he'd be like, mouthwash, I'm good. All right, let's start. And they were like, dude, we just woke you up and your friends on set. He was drunk and doing drugs on the sets of these movies. Wow. So Disney fired him. Like, they were like, nope.
So bad.
Just Google it. I'm not wrong.
So bad.
Yeah. So
I do remember there being a reason.
Yeah, he got fired for a reason.
Interesting. So maybe my theory still stands, but he blew it.
Yeah. No, you may be onto something. I watched all of Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I did not read the books. I watched all of it. I started in the second season when everyone was, you couldn't avoid it on the internet, right? Kind of like how Breaking Bad is the same thing. Everybody said the same crap. And so I started it, and I liked all of it. The ending was not great. I don't think it's as bad as people said. But what your conversation was, it's 10 years, right? If you watch a show for 10 years religiously for half of the year on Sunday nights and you plan your day around it because you don't want to have spoilers, if it ends like crap, is it worth it? With Game of Thrones, I'm like, there were some scenes and some episodes that I'm like, that is absolutely cinema fantastic. So I think that Game of Thrones, it was worth the squeeze. Even though the ending was crap, I got to know a lot of actors that I didn't know before. Captain Phasma is one of them. What's her name?
Gwendolyn Christie. She's awesome.
And I'm a huge fan of hers as a person and an actress. I like the guy that plays Jon Snow. A lot of these people I wouldn't have known before. So I had fun watching it. Even though the ending was kind of boring, I was okay with it.
I know.
It wasn't great.
I know it's hard to ask this kind of a question, but hypothetically speaking, if you had read all the books and like invested in some like merchandise or whatever, do you think your feelings about it would have changed?
100%. Especially the books part. Books take significantly longer than, 54 minutes per Sunday, 100%. If you were reading a book to me, like you guys are perfect examples because you've read the Game of Thrones things like, not Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings like a billion times. That's huge. If you had read the books, I would be a little bummed out.
I'm just curious because I know it's just people's, because people, I'm sure there's people that are listening. They're like, no, it was not worth it, because like I invested all this time and effort and was all this crazy stuff. So like,
and
it's just interesting to see the different perspectives,
We did a Nightcap Chat. We did an interview with Chuck Huber, and if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen. Chuck Huber,
I remember that one.
He's an anime voice actor. He's voiced Android 17. He does My Hero Academia and a ton of stuff. I can't even list the best of them. He brought up Game of Thrones while we were interviewing, and he said because it was like toward the end of like the quarantine, part of COVID and stuff, and he's like, I watched Game of Thrones, but I binged it, and he said the ending for me, I could see why people would be upset after waiting for this for 10 years. But I watched this whole thing in like 3 weeks. So to me, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that's fine. So that's also an interesting perspective because now we're at a point where you don't have to wait to slowly watch this over 10 years. You can just binge it. And that's a little different.
Such a good point. Yeah. Again, it goes to the books thing. Reading a book that big, I think there's dedication. I am always in awe. I've talked about you guys at home before. Reading those books like you guys did, the game, it's the second time I've done that, Lord of the Rings books. How you guys like visualize that, and the people that do Harry Potter are the same. And I know that that's on a much lower level. I'm not saying that it's comparable, but it's still thick, weird terms that you don't know, invented sort of terminology you have to figure out. I can't believe it. So if you read the books, I could absolutely see that being a valid point. But I'm just a TV guy, and I was like, okay. Now I didn't binge it all at once. I watched it from Sunday of season 2 all the way through. But
That's still close. Still
yeah, but I mean,
years.
still, that's 55 minutes a week. If you want to read that entire book, I mean, or the series, that's a lot more. So that's a good point. I never thought about the books part, like how that would relate to it. Because another topic that we could bring up, or another one, and this could be a little edgy because it's not over yet, but you have to acknowledge The Walking Dead. That viewership dropped off huge, so much so that they have to, and it's not even over yet. But there are the graphic books. Sarah has them. What do you call those? They're like compendiums. Is that the name? What are they? They're big. Like,
I would call that, if they were like really thick. If they were smaller collections, I would call them graphic novels.
Okay,
but I mean,
now this isn't over. And Blade, I know you're a fan. You dressed up as Negan.
I did, and I won't profess like I was an avid reader of the comics, but I did really enjoy the show. I watched it with my wife, even in spite of not really liking zombie stuff. But to me, like, The Walking Dead was always more of commentary on the human condition, because, you know, like, the world ended, society crashed, so it was kind of like starting over, but for modern man. So it was kind of like tribes, you know, the rules of the jungle, if you will, you know, like, do you be a good person? Do you help your fellow man? Is it live and let live? Is it live and let die? You know, like, deeper questions like that's why I thought it was interesting. I was familiar with the comics. And obviously, if you thought this was going to be spoiler free, I mean, we're talking about endings here, right? So for me, we stopped watching. We stopped watching a little after Carl died. That to me was just one of the definitive sins of the show, and I just couldn't keep going after that. And you know, some of the changes were fun. It was starting to drag with some of the filler and stuff, but they killed off Carl right before a really important story arc that literally centered around him. And now the Walking Dead comics are over. Right. Carl survives to the end. Period. It's like if you're talking about like The Walking Dead, if truly they turned to J.R.R. Martin and said, this person has to survive, this person has to survive. If anybody consulted Robert Kirkman, he should have said, Carl and Rick have to make it to the ending. You wanted to kill someone, you should have killed Norman Reedus' character. Norman Reedus' character was made up.
Made up. Yeah.
They wrote him into the comics later, and I think killed him. I could be wrong. But I was waiting for Norman Reedus to die, and he never did. Now he's getting his own TV show, which is just insane.
All of it's crazy. And I one of the other ones I wanted to talk about, I don't think anybody here watched, but I think it goes back to what you're talking about. AMC is they are so desperate for content that how many times do you watch a show like a big one like Breaking Bad or Walking Dead, and afterwards is the big promo for the next new series of this, and it's like we've got these amazing actors and the trailer's dark and edgy, and next it lasts on one season.
The Walking Dead.
Okay, how many spin-off series can the freaking Walking Dead do? I mean, they already canceled the movie because right now it is tracking so low on people's priority list, they don't care. So I like what you said though at the beginning, Blade. The Walking Dead, zombies have been around for a while, you know, and it's getting to be a little bit played, but I don't watch this because of the zombie thing. It's because of the scary human aspect to me.
It's terrifying.
And that's why I like the movie and the book The Road, which is it won the Pulitzer Prize, but it's about the human sort of, what do you do when there's no power and the world is kind of falling apart? Are you a good guy? Are you a bad guy or whatever? Which I always loved about The Walking Dead, but good God, I got so bored. The Negan factor just was a little much for me, even though I loved everybody. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is great. I just got bored. But AMC ruined another show because they didn't have an ending written. And I'm wondering, like, if you don't have an ending written in mind and you just keep on taking a check to keep it going and going and going, how long can you do that? Because that's what happened with a couple of shows on my list. They got so popular, they just kept on taking paychecks. instead of writing really good content.
Mhm. Well,
But
I
you're saying
guess
that The Walking Dead was being written together with the series? It wasn't over, or the comic was over?
the comic recently ended.
So it was
I-
going on together, the parallel
It
sort
was,
of
and as
live?
they
I didn't
started,
know that.
as they were catching up, I think they started dragging out a little more because, like, I really think they dragged out like the governor, and then they really started dragging out Negan. It was like, when I love Negan, but when are we gonna make more progress? So Negan was super scary. I mean,
Oh,
like
he's terrifying.
he was like the big bad in my opinion. I didn't keep watching it, but yeah, I did go back and I watched one more episode of The Walking Dead of the recent seasons, the flashback episode, and it
Oh, yeah.
flashes back on it's Negan's origin story, essentially, like right before things, went to hell, and they did go to hell with his wife Lucille and stuff, and really like it was so depressing, like unbelievably crying, depressing. Uh it's almost wrong to say like it totally justified his behavior.
Really?
Like
I
it,
have to go and watch this one then.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. Not justified, but you understand. You
You
understand.
sympathize with his position a little bit.
A
He's like a
within-
Thanos? You kind of understand?
No, just more like you understand he is a broken man who messed up. He was a bad guy all along, trying to do good, but then no. And that's
Dude, I'm
all
gonna
I'll
go
say.
watch this
And
one.
that's all I'll say. It,
Can
not
you
yeah.
Can I off air get that? Because I want to know which
Yep.
episode to watch. Because I do
Yep.
not want to watch the wrong episode and then be like,
Well,
come on.
Hollywood, as of the last like 10, 15 years, has done a way better job at villains having a reason for being a villain besides I'm just a bad guy. Like they actually now develop. Like you understand why Loki's the way he is. You understand why, and it makes you go, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, you should do that, which is great. Which I think they've done a great job with. And I think that's really the thing that like distanced himself from things like 20 years ago was like
Lance,
bad guy was just a bad guy for no reason. Now it's like there's a reason. It makes sense, and it's hard to say that they're wrong. Like Thanos was right. Like let's be honest,
So the line is always the best villain would be the hero of his own origin story, right? His own story. I kind of see that. I would watch a Thanos origin story and see what the hell was going on, even though
I read his origin. It came out like a few years ago.
I mean,
it's actually pretty good.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, in Infinity
I would
War, I
check
mean,
that
that
out.
was a Thanos story. Thanos was the hero of the story. He won.
Well said. Agreed. Yep.
He won.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And which is in spite of its flaws, why it was a brilliant way of approaching that. So
did you not watch The Walking Dead all the way? Did you?
No.
just kind of start. Oh, I always misunderstood. I thought
I
you
stopped.
did.
I stopped a little after Carl died. Besides that one episode.
But from the beginning, were you watching it live,
Yep.
like on Sunday nights?
Yep.
Okay, so you were an OG
I was
watcher.
invested. Like
Yep.
I wanted this person to die. Oh my gosh, they killed whoever. And shoot, when I was working at an advertising agency, like I helped write a campaign for a fast food place that's out here that was specifically airing on The Walking Dead, and I was the only one watching it, so I helped write these little jokes for the campaign.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Lance, did you watch it, or what's your opinion on it?
No, I have something has to do with zombies. I just automatically do not care.
Yeah, we talked about that with gaming before. It's not in your wheelhouse. You don't care about the
It's
Last
just not
of Us.
my.
You were like, it's not my
No,
thing.
I played The Last of. I think it's amazing. It's too stressful. I can't deal with it. I literally was having anxiety attack playing it. I think it's awesome, and I love Left 4 Dead. And then there's
Left 4 Dead. Yeah,
that's an amazing game. Back 4 Blood, which is essentially the same people that made Left 4 Dead, just made a brand new game, and that game's really
successor.
fun. But I just, as far as watching something, like it's just, to me, it's just silly and just like corny. Like I just have no interest. If I hear, oh, there's zombies in it, I just don't really care. I watch I Am Legend because like I was on a date with a girlfriend. She wanted to see it, and like I just didn't care. I was just going on a date. You know what I mean? And I like the film because I love Will Smith at the time. But hey,
yeah, we all did.
I wasn't focused on the movie, But
right.
That was a good movie, but I just don't care about zombies. Like it's just boring to me. Like
I don't like zombies either.
Same thing every time. Like something bad happens, everyone spreads, and I
don't like zombies either. But like I said, it was about the human stuff, which is
scarier. That's
scary.
my whole thing with the end of the world stuff. Just the idea of that's the scariest part. Is other groups and other people and how you actually react. The zombies are a minor part of it until they started like, didn't you like the part where they started actually like utilizing zombies as weapons and like you sort of like channeling them and steering people around? I kind of like them using zombies as a tool. I always thought that was super terrifying. On this note, Sarah was obsessed with the show, and she had me keyed up. You know what I've always been scared of? I don't understand why. I mean, I understand why, but I don't know why it ever like stuck me. Is cannibals? Cannibals freak me out. I don't like the idea. It always freaked me out as a kid. I read the story about the Donner Party, and it always freaked me out. So Sarah had told me, she was like, there's this plot line that's coming out that's going to make you freaking lose it. And I'm like, oh, no. And it was the Terminus, whatever we're calling it. I don't remember how to pronounce it. Terminus, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when we started seeing that season where they started spray painting it this way, Sarah would be like, okay, now, are you going to watch this or are you going to quit? Because this is about to get really into your wheelhouse. And when it took an episode and a half and then it was over, I think that's what killed her. She was like, nope, this was almost as good as Negan. These people were terrifying and they did it in 53 minutes. She was like, I'm all done. I don't think she ever cared after that at all, except for she liked Glenn. She liked Glenn a lot. I think she liked the actor that played him a lot. What's his name?
Stephen Yeun.
Stephen Yeun. So when he died, she was like, I'm officially out. I don't think she ever watched it again. And she has those books. They're thick and expensive. And she bailed because she hated what they dealt with, the cannibal people and Glenn.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the way they killed Glenn was right out of the comics. So I thought that was awesome. Yep. But they, as somebody who knew what happened in the comics, I was thrown for a twist because in the TV show, he hits Abraham first.
Right.
And I was like, oh, they're changing it. And then he
went,
beats him. And then he also kills Glenn. I was like, whoa.
That's when Sarah was like, okay, what in the hell? And I think after that, part of her just died. She just never wanted to watch it again.
Was racing. Like that was one of the biggest I've never felt such adrenaline from a season premiere because like they're sitting there and he's counting eeny, meeny, miny, mo for who he's gonna bash the head in, with his barbed wire bat. Like which beloved character is gonna get their head just smashed in, and if anybody does anything about it, you're all just gonna get killed.
I remember they had Vegas odds on it. You could actually place a bet.
Get out.
Yep, it was all over the place. I mean, I think that this was the most internet hype thing I'd ever seen because people were screenshotting like reflections and like comparing shapes of people. And I'm like, oh my God. This is before I realized that they can seriously alter things with CGI. Like, oh, you thought it was this? But I mean, they were looking at like the bat. And like when he did this, they were like, oh, if you look at the shadow over here, it's him and him. And, oh, it's going after. But yeah, you could place odds. And clearly the comic ones where Glenn was, you wouldn't win any money because he was in the book, but you could place your bets on the other ones.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. So nuts. But The Walking Dead, they dragged it out and to me changed too much, and it just committed that sin. So see, that's based on something kind of like Game of Thrones, and they did a disservice. And there is merchandise, there is comics, there is fandom.
I think that beats outside of Game of Thrones. I think the most merchandising, even remotely in this topic, would be Walking Dead.
Yeah.
There's
probably.
Every Comic-Con in San Diego, there's a whole area for it. There's the shirts. I mean, when you go to what's our the store in the mall? I mean, there's a Walking Dead section of whatever that place is that sells like that emo stuff. We go there for
Hot Topic.
A Hot Topic or Box Lunch. Yeah. They have like there's always a Walking Dead section.
Yep.
So, and I think they have the record of the most Funkos for a series. They have like a stupid amount of Funkos.
Really?
Every season, there's a new version of literally every character in a different outfit.
Weird.
So do either of you guys regret it?
No, because I stopped watching it in time.
Yeah. I realize, sorry, Lance, this is a bad answer, but I don't know because I stopped it when it got bad. I didn't get through it, but I thought it was worth talking
Well,
about.
it's over now. So how do you feel?
I don't know how it ended.
Well, that doesn't matter. Are you satisfied with what you saw, and are you satisfied that you stopped where you stopped as of right now?
I didn't like where it ended. Okay, so from what I watched all the way through, and I love the governor. I disagree with you on that. I thought the governor.
No. The governor was fantastic. It was drawn out.
If I had to rate the whole thing on what I saw, it was worth it because that season finale where the governor killed what's that old man's name?
Herschel.
At the thing. One of the best episodes of TV I think I've ever seen. I would be pissed if I never got to see that. Even though it ended poorly, I was pumped to watch that. So I thought it was okay. It was worth it for me. That's kind of my point. Same thing with Game of Thrones. The Red Wedding episode. Every time you see the dragons come through in a pot you didn't expect, even though it ended like crap, I'm still okay with it. Except for the last one on my list. That's the one I'm going to tell you I disagree with.
And if you're a fan of the comic books too, I mean, Walking Dead didn't get movies like Marvel, it got a TV show. So even if like the Negan stuff was really good, like there's still a lot of good that came out of it. So it's still fun to see the good adaptations of these characters you love, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan, like, he looks like him, he acts like him. It's unbelievable, so it's just like, the good Marvel movies you'd see, like, oh, I get to see this one, because there's good Marvel movies and there's bad Marvel movies, so it's you can still pick and choose, you kind of apply that principle here. So I've been watching a lot of 90s stuff. And literally on Friday, I watched Frasier a few times over the past few months, but I sat down and watched the whole final season. And I knew what was going to happen because they announced they're going to do another season of Frasier, which I'm so like stoked and hesitant to be excited about. But it also ended just fine, I think. And I got emotional, which I didn't necessarily like, because I watch Frasier because it's funny, but it was really sweet. And there's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but not necessarily in a bad way. I don't know. Do you guys know or remember?
I don't. It's not. I don't know if I saw it or it just wasn't that memorable for me. Because I used to watch it growing up, but I just don't remember.
It's a little unmemorable, but it's like, it's not bad. The last two episodes it's like a two-parter. His dad gets married. Niles and Daphne have their baby, and Frasier acts like he's taking a job in San Francisco, but at last minute he ends up going to Chicago instead because the girl he dated for the last 3 weeks had to take a job in Chicago, but he decided to take a chance on love instead. Yeah,
I think I remember that actually.
This job in San Francisco. I will say it was a little stuffed because it's like the whole season was just like going, and then all of a sudden the last two episodes like, okay, now they're suddenly getting married. Oh, they're gonna have the baby. They totally skip Daphne like having contractions or anything. They're like, oh, my water broke, and then like they cut, and then the baby's just out, and they're moving on like within the first 4 minutes of the episode. Like, I think it was also like they weren't prepared or something, and they just shoved in. They like had to tie up all the loose ends within 2 episodes for no reason. So I will critique that, but I will say it didn't ruin anything, so that's good.
Seems just like lackadaisical. It wasn't really like nothing to blow your hair back. Like, okay.
Yep.
Okay. I never watched it. I mean, I watched scattered episodes, but definitely never not enough to like watch a continuing plot line. I don't remember the ending. It was not in my wheelhouse. And I never watched Cheers. I know it. I'm from Boston. I know that's sacrilegious. I just never did. And that's where his character got started, right?
Yeah. I almost wish, I felt like it would almost make more sense that he went to Boston.
I
He found
almost
the
thought you were
girl
going to say that. Yeah, I almost thought that's
instead of
what you were going to say.
Chicago. It's like I think they picked the wrong city there. I think that would have been kind of cool. Like, oh, he went back to where it all began. That's bittersweet. That's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, it was you're missing the whole part with this girl that he fell in love with, and the.
No, I know, but I'm saying they should
Yeah.
just made her from Boston.
Go to
From
Lassen,
Boston,
yeah. I see that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot with Cheers. I do want to watch Cheers next. I don't think I appreciated it as much in my youth, and maybe I'll appreciate it a little more now.
What service is that on? Is Cheers available for us?
It's
to
on
watch? 'Cause
Hulu.
I would start.
Oh,
It's a Hulu one.
Yep.
I would give that a shot because it's one of those ones I've seen scattered episodes, but never all the way through. But I would. Very much like
me
to,
too. And when you finish Frasier, Hulu will just force Cheers on you. So that's why I know. That's why I know it's on there. It'll just start playing. It won't even ask you.
The good thing is you could just skip the beginning, right? Because the song's just so depressing. I hated
the Cheers song.
Yeah, you want to go where everyone knows your name?
Knows your name?
God,
why is that depressing?
It's just so depressing. The whole thing is just sad. It just gives bad. It's like bad, sad vibes. And I just like when I was when I was a kid, it would come on all the time, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to. And I'd just change the channel and sometimes I would just change the channel until I'd be like, okay, I'll give it a minute.
The song is over.
The song's over. I hate the song. I thought it was so sad.
No, you want to go where everyone knows your name. Like, that's the comfort.
And they're always glad that you came.
Yeah. That's why I shop at Drawn to Comics on the corner of 58th Avenue and Glendale Avenue in downtown Glendale, Arizona.
But I just think of all I just think of all the times that I'm not at Drawn to Comics in downtown Glendale.
Oh.
Don't you do it, Lance. It's too much.
Oh.
So I have one, and I'm desperate to talk about this one because if you know me at all, you'll know that I dislike a lot of people in Hollywood, and there's a couple of people that show up on my list that you could almost say that's my hate list for whatever reason, personal or what they put on screen.
Or
and
they
there's
just
a big
the bed.
Whatever it is. This is one. This is, oh my God, I'm not going to point the finger at you right now.
I had to.
I love it. This one was one that, Lance, this is up there with Dexter territory. And this one I wish I never started. Even though there were some incredible moments, incredible season finales. But there is a very good reason why this show sucks and why this screenwriter is garbage. And that would be Damon Lindelof and J.J. Abrams together making Lost. Now, here is why this makes me nuts. Here's why this makes me nuts. J.J. Abrams worked with Damon Lindelof, who still makes stuff today. And you can look him up. He's still crap, except for I really liked what he did with Watchmen a lot, which is why I can't put him in my hate list. I'm just a very dislike. They admit that after season 2, they didn't know where the ending was going because ABC just kept on raising their paychecks. They kept on saying, cool, so we'll give you bigger budget for every salary and production. We need 2 more years. And they just said, we'll just write on the fly. And it went nowhere. They promised one thing. They promised that it would not end in purgatory. And they promised that in like season 4 at Comic-Con. And where did it end up? That. Because they had no idea where they were going. And by the end of the thing, everyone was so wrapped up in, are they dead? Are they not? Blah, blah, blah. They went back and literally ended the one place they said they weren't going to go because they ran out of ideas. ABC just kept paying them until finally they were like, we've installed 90 characters that no one has seen since season 2. They all died immediately, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the hell was going on. We've twisted everybody's world up. Lost to me. And I watched it from day 1 until whatever freaking day it ended. And I wish I never started because I don't think it was worth the squeeze. The finale of season 1 and 2, some of the most amazing crap ever. But was it worth it to get there? Absolutely not. Hour-long episodes, like 20 episodes a season? Screw you. I hated Lost. I'm so mad that I watched it.
I watched Lost. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Lost was wasn't that like the first huge like that it was like the next level of like everyone's watching this one show that has to do with nothing. It just came out of nowhere and everyone loves it. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like, it set the bar, right?
Yep.
And
Agreed.
I think I'd have to agree with you that the first 2 seasons were phenomenal. After that, like, it's kind of bullshit. I'm sorry, Blade, but that I have to sit there and try to watch what you're putting out, and you don't even know what you're trying to do.
This is my point.
Everyone's sitting there trying to figure out what is going on. This is purgatory. They're in hell. No, they're trying to do this for their sins. No, it's actually an island. The island is alive. Those are demons. No, they're not. Like, and then it's just like, oh yeah, we don't know either. And then that's basically almost what you get for the ending, was just like, you decide for yourself and however it is for you. It's just like, you know what? Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything so Blade doesn't have to cut anymore, but like, man, they just really just screwed everyone that was watching it. Cause like, I was so upset. I regret watching it. I'm not gonna lie though, I've made other people watch it just so that way they can feel how I feel. And I'm like,
oh wow, that's some sinister shit. I have showed the finale to Sarah just so she could see it because she didn't watch it. I'm like, let me just show you like these bullet points. And for a while, I think it got taken down. There was an awesome video on YouTube that was about an hour and a half long, but it had every highlight that you needed to know. So you could skip the episodes where that random couple showed up on the island. They got buried alive and then you never talked about them again. They were just holes every season. If they were 15, I don't remember. They're like 24 episode seasons. This is an ABC show. So these are hour long, 24 episodes. There were massive sections of the show that just meant nothing. They did nothing. And when you found out that Damon Lindelof gave up, and with J.J. Abrams, no, he's not off the hook on this one either, Star Wars, but like this guy, they just submitted to the paycheck and they just kept going without even knowing. And the one thing they promised that it wasn't purgatory, and that's where they ended. I'm like, this was a waste of my time. I didn't get any pleasure out of the last literally like hundreds of hours that I've spent watching this. I liked a couple of episodes and where it was going, but if you're writing this on the fly, shame on you. I hated it, and I wish I didn't spend my time watching Lost. Big one for me.
That really sucks because that would work. Writing on the fly works for something like Seinfeld. You know, like, okay, we need an episode. You know, not like
South Park.
Sure.
South Park. They filmed those 3 weeks before they aired. They're relevant to today's topics. There is no big grandiose ending to them. Seinfeld's jokey and light, and you don't need to know what happens at the end of last season to this one. Everything is independent.
But then again, you get things like Archer that should be similar, and then they just blow it the last 4 seasons.
That is true.
And it's just supposed to be jokes and jokes and jokes, and it's just garbage.
They blew, in my opinion, they blew 5, even 6 seasons, I would say. So I would say Archer.
I don't know the
now,
seasons. I was just guessing.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that Archer is now, in my mind, officially more of a bad show than a good show because of how many seasons they blew. First 5 seasons, worth watching. Season 6 is not that funny, but not as bad as 7 and forward.
I think you can do the jump the shark thing with Archer very well. In my opinion, it was the episode with John Hamm. It was a finale, and he was the pilot of that old timey airplane, and he was flying to Cuba to pick them up or whatever. This was after
that's not John Hamm. That's Patrick Warburton.
No, it is not. It's not Patrick Warburton. Am I wrong? Patty Warburton. I mean, he's one of my all-time favorites. I thought it was John Hamm. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not John Hamm. Either way, but you remember that? After that, they started doing a lot of the noir sort of spin-off-y kind of weird tone.
It was
after that. No, they started after that, but I felt a deterioration, and I loved Archer.
Sure,
I love
sure.
it too.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, and it's not as funny. And like, I watched most of this newest season, and it literally just wasn't funny. It was drama. It was depressing. He's like out of this coma, and like he's depressed. And like Lana's moved on and she's miserable in her marriage. I'm like, isn't this supposed to be a comedy? You know, nothing is funny. You know, the jokes didn't land. But whatever. I still watch it to go to bed. I just stop right around when season 6 starts, and I move on to either.
So first of all, of that show, there's a lot of people I love on Archer. Besides H. John Benjamin, Judy Greer is great. Chris Parnell is the voice and freaking everything. Jessica Walter was great. I was right. It was John Hamm. And I'll tell you when I died, was the end of season 4. Season 4 was a 2-parter, and it was called Sea Tunt.
Oh, you're talking about the guy
and John Hamm.
John Hamm is the guy in the water. The guy on the seaplane is Patrick Warburton.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I got the two rough, tough guys. But you're totally right. I forgot about that. Sorry. That's when I after that, I just wasn't having fun anymore. I was just bored.
You're right.
So,
You're right, John. Yes, that's a very good point. Like that is right around like the peak, because season 5 is a tone change, and I still like it, but it is a departure. But it's the last decent season before it's just weird. Okay. But yeah.
I saw what you did there. Departure. I got you.
No, that's not.
I don't even think
no.
Departure.
Take this. I cut this out.
Bad pun.
Well, I have 2 more to talk about, unless Lance has one he wants to do, because one of them is, I think it's right up your alley. I'm not entirely positive. I don't think I've ever heard you mention it.
Which is what?
All right. Well, what do you think about Futurama? It was being canceled 3 different times, and now it's coming back for another season. I think it's fantastic. I love Futurama, and it's all because Sarah. I didn't even know what it was. I kept on calling. I knew the robot. I kept on calling Bender Fender for like years, until on my last podcast with my buddy Steve, he was like, "Did you just say Fender?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's his name, right?" He's like, "No, he's a Bender." I'm like, "Okay," but it's coming back on Hulu. Another 20 episodes, and everyone is back. So I kind of love that.
I watched Futurama like in my college days, and like I enjoyed it in passing, but I didn't love it enough to like, oh yes, I'm gonna turn on Futurama. But like,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, like it had its funny moments.
It has a really good ending. It's really sweet, like a tearjerker, kind of cute, that puts all the jokes together from the season. So I like. Yeah, it's very, very highly rated. I think it's the second highest rated episode of any TV comedy, animated. It's really, really popular. But the one I wanted to bring up with you guys was obviously The Sopranos.
Oh, I don't know why The Sopranos.
Maybe the most controversial finale of all time. Maybe. Were you watching it live like I was? Because
yes,
I was doing what everybody else was doing, checking my phone to see if my internet went out.
I did. You weren't there, Lance?
I don't remember the ending. I can't think of what it is.
Do you want to Google it real quick? Because it's maybe the most Googled video of all time. It just ends. It just stops. They're at dinner at a diner, and they're playing that song, and it just stops. And it goes no credits. It just goes black screen. And Blade, tell me you did what I did, which is I just started Googling it, and literally everyone was Googling the exact same thing at the same time. And they were like, oh, it's because there's another secret season, blah, blah, blah. No, that was just the ending.
No, I didn't. Well,
you didn't do that?
I don't even think I had Google when it ended. Like, I was just like, oh, that was stupid. That was it. I just accepted it and moved on.
Oh, man, we had the lights dimmed. We had a meal, the whole thing at our house. And when it ended, I seriously thought my TV just crapped. I'm like, did DirecTV just shut off at the worst time in history? And then I'm looking it up, and it was just like the live comments.
What year did that end? Because were we coming off of a bad Seinfeld ending? So I was just like, this is par for the course.
No, that was significantly. Sopranos ended. It went from 99.
Okay, yeah,
to 2007.
Yeah,
2007.
So yeah.
86 episodes on each.
So yeah, I mean it was a little afterward, but like what good TV show endings are there? Like
6 Feet Under.
The ending was disappointing, but it didn't ruin the show.
That's the point of the conversation, right? But also, was it even a bad ending? Because at first I thought it was a horrible ending. Then about a week later, when people stopped talking about it so much and I rewatched, I'm like, no, I think it may be one of the best endings. So I don't know.
For me, I wouldn't call it one of the best endings or even a good ending, but agreed. I wouldn't call it a bad ending.
Interesting.
It was a ending. It wasn't enough to ruin anything, but unfortunately, James Gandolfini, is no longer with us. So, we'll never get to revisit this. So, it's better than a bad ending. I guess that's my positive spin on
Agreed.
this.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed The Sopranos. You know, I wouldn't mind watching it again. For some reason, it keeps getting suggested in my Instagram. I don't know what I clicked.
Really?
And it's just like giving me Sopranos memes. But then I get hooked on it and I start scrolling the Sopranos memes. Like, I haven't seen this since 2007 and sooner. So like, I'm just like looking at these things like, oh yeah, I think I remember that. You know, it's kind of weird. You know, Instagram wants me to really rewatch The Sopranos.
Yeah, it wants to revisit it. They're suggesting it to you.
I mean, I think it could have been worse, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been like,
sure.
They could have just completely ruined everything. You know what I mean? Like
Dexter style.
Dexter, yes. It wasn't Dexter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Same network.
Maybe thinking of it now, looking back at it, I don't. You know what I mean? Like after getting Dextered,
the sweet and sour again.
Maybe it's now just not that bad.
Shit, at least it wasn't Dexter.
Or it wasn't Lost. In fact, I forgot about Lost until you mentioned it. That's how I think Lost might be worse because like I locked it out of my mind until you said Lost, and I was like, oh yeah, that whole thing was just. Although it wasn't a bad ending, I guess it was a bad 80% of the product. So it's a little different.
This is an ABC network show that had to have 22 episodes a season, and they were all an hour without commercials, right? Well, with commercials. So Showtime's and HBO's, those are unedited, 40 to 50 minutes or whatever the hell they choose, whatever they want to do, where they can say or show anything with no commercials or whatever. And they can have their seasons 10 episodes or 12. Lost made me nuts because they filled it up, like you said, 80% of that is just nonsense. And they didn't know where they were going with it. At least I think that they knew what they were doing at Sopranos. And I think he actually built like the last half of the show to build up to that ending. I thought it was fascinating, a really cool, edgy way to end a show. And it was very controversial.
You mentioned the commercials, and I could remember myself watching Lost and going, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of watching these same commercials over and over again. I just want to watch the damn show.
Yep. Yeah.
It almost makes it worse. Like you're being tortured in between your television show now. And then on top of it, your television show doesn't even know where it's going. And you're being tortured by that. Yep. It's just not a good look.
So I've been rewatching the ending here and refreshing my memory. And I found this article about
The Sopranos?
Yep. I thought he died until you said it, and I was like, oh no, yeah, that is what happened. But now I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, no, like he does die.
They didn't say that though until the new movie came out this last year.
Yeah, I know. I'm reading this whole interview. Like, oh yeah, he died, and it's interesting. Like these little things that I didn't catch explaining. Like, do you think you hear it when it happens, and so it's his perspective of. Like he gets shot in the head, but this is from his point of view. That's why it just goes to black. He's no longer, he doesn't get shot and see all that. Like it just ends for him. So it's his perspective, which is interesting.
Love that. I think it's so fantastic.
My first instinct was to hate that, but taking a step back, he's a mobster. He's a bad guy. I mean, in theory, this might happen. So, I mean, it's fine. And what an interesting way to do that instead of like seeing this character you love, it's from his perspective. So, like, boom, that's it. Okay, great.
Yep. Kind of realistic. If it was going to be you wouldn't know. It's just lights out.
Exactly. Gone. So that's interesting. Endings are hard.
They are, especially when they're a beloved series like one of these ones.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'll tell you a really good one is the ending of Breaking. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But how do you expect a gangster thing to end? You know what I mean? Like you expect it to. Is he going to retire and go to Florida and shoot golf? Like what do you want him to do? You know what I mean? Like he's a mobster in New Jersey. Like that's just how it's going to end. You know what I mean? Like
even The Godfather just dropped dead in the tomato field, which is you want to talk about stupid endings. Like give me a break. But yeah, I mean he's a mobster. He dies, right? Although he just has a heart attack in this tomato field or whatever. So stupid. I'm sorry. That was
Godfather 3?
No, the first one. When Marlon Brando dies in the tomato field.
You thought that was bad?
I didn't like it.
You might be the only person on the planet that doesn't like that.
That's fine. Perhaps it was just
It is.
overhyped for me. You know, everyone's like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. You have to watch this.
Oh,
Okay, I'll watch it.
obviously. I know you don't watch Family Guy that much, but that's one of the lines. He goes, I don't like Godfather. It insists upon itself. It insists upon itself. But you're right. That's one of those ones you can't keep on hearing that it's the best number 1 and 2 of all time and then not come in with a bias. You're right. But
Well,
I
that's
mean,
that's what happened to me. And then I was like, oh, he just drops dead at Tomato Field. I'm like this is the cinematic masterpiece everyone is raving
yeah, but
about
that's in
here.
the first hour. You know that it's going to be better. You got to see him dead at the freaking toll booth. Greatest scene of all. Nah, it's not the greatest scene of all time. It's very good though.
Mhm.
Anyway, good point. And The Sopranos was interesting because I don't know. I like that they let him do an edgy sort of ending. HBO took a risk by letting him do something bizarre like that. And I after hindsight, I loved it. I did not, in hindsight, love Game of Thrones, but I also didn't really mind it. It was kind of meh. I mean, sometimes they bring these things back just to end them differently. Dexter is a perfect example. Like, I think that they sat there for so long, like, how bad was that ending? Could we fix it with a mini series like what they did with Breaking Bad which didn't need fixing? Phenomenal ending. But now that you can make these like mini series like sort of things, who the hell knows? If something's bad. How many times have they asked Jerry to come back and do a Seinfeld one? And the closest they came was Curb that season where everyone was back and they were fictionally making the reboot, or I guess what you could call, what do they call it when you come back after it's been canceled? The reunion episode. And there's a whole season on Curb Your Enthusiasm about, is Larry going to bring back Jerry and are they going to do a whole reunion episode? And they do. And then of course it fails and it doesn't work because it falls apart. But that's as close as they ever came. What do you think about bringing them back?
Bringing back who? Or
Just
in
any
general?
of these shows, now that you can do that so easily on these streaming networks, they just want material that's familiar. It's like another sequel.
No, generally no, not right now. I think everything is just. I feel like they want to redo everything, and they're just. I think more often than not they ruin things. That's why I'm cautiously optimistic for Frasier. Just because I know Kelsey Grammer himself is going to be like, he's putting it together and handling it and producing it and whatever. And it's going to continue the story on, his father passed away and he's in Chicago with this girl. And he said like, that's where this is going to pick up. And, the guy who plays Niles, I was always so good with coming up with his name, like for the last few weeks. And now I can't think of it. Anyway, they all trust Kelsey Grammer, and I think it could be good. It shouldn't.
David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce. Yes.
Yeah, that was annoying me too.
They all trust Kelsey Grammer, and he's an underrated actor. First of all, I think and he's got a great voice.
He was so good as Beast because of his voice and the way that his tone
gosh,
was. Yeah, he's fantastic.
When they cast him, I was like, this is brilliant. He can be this poetic, kind of beast, and you put some makeup on it, and that's exactly what they did. And
that's cool.
They didn't let him shine. I think they cut too much, and he even is like quoting poetry in one of the deleted scenes, and I think because the director, it was kind of weird. But they almost had it. They almost nailed that character. And gosh, I wish we saw more of Kelsey Grammer as Beast, because that's just perfect. That is absolutely perfect casting. Gosh, where was I going with that? Yeah,
just bringing them back, like you said, a new series, and now it doesn't seem like.
Let it lie.
I think for the most part, yeah, you gotta just. It is what it is. Although I kind of get it. Like as far as endings go for shows, what's the incentive really for the show to have an ending that's good, bad, or indifferent? Like the show's over, they made their money. At that point, what's it matter? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really matter that much unless you have like a franchise that's like Game of Thrones might matter because there's a lot of potential for spinoffs, sure. But like things like Seinfeld or Dexter, especially back when you didn't do spinoffs really, it's like, who cares what the ending is? It doesn't even matter. It's
Well,
just, it's over.
There is one situation though where it would benefit, and that's if the show abruptly ends because it gets canceled and didn't have an ending. And a good example would be like the 90s X-Men cartoon. It just ended. The comics are forever, but for that, and allegedly Disney was going to bring it back, which I almost hate to think Disney is going to now ruin the Fox 90s X-Men show, but something like that could potentially warrant one more season to close up a story arc.
Yeah, that's different though. I'm talking about something that's
completely
ending,
different. But in a situation where something got canceled, I think there's an opportunity there. But you better be careful not to blow it.
That's for sure. Yeah, because then it was just a money grab if you blew it. Because everyone is going to invest their time, and then they'll be like, "You guys screwed this up. Good job."
I mean, there's something to having a really good ending because of rewatchability today. People rewatch crap all the time. I know that I have personally rewatched Breaking Bad, I think 4 or 5 times. 6 Feet Under, I've seen about a dozen times all the way through. It's my favorite series. It's fantastic. There's something to it. Now that they rely on you keeping your streaming service, like, okay, so now we're done with Ted Lasso. What are we going to watch now? It's like, oh, okay, well, that's a bad example. That's an Apple Plus one. But, the big one is, I'll just do it, Breaking Bad. So Better Call Saul is on right now, which is sort of a sequel spinoff. And now it's people are rewatching it again. And it's like, okay, I've got Netflix. Do I keep it or do I rewatch one of these again? And they're rewatching it. I'm one of them. So it's, it's one of those things where, sure, an ending matters, but that's a good point, Lance, especially in this 90s world that we're kind of talking about right now. What did it matter? They weren't talking about spin-offs or prequels or sequels later down the line. It's now because they're so easy to make and distribute that they're doing it. So it didn't really matter.
Seinfeld had a bad, ending. Like everyone hated it, basically, right? People were upset.
They were.
But I mean, it's one of the most watched, sitcoms of all time, and he's a billionaire because of it. Like, I mean, it didn't matter. Like for certain shows, it just doesn't matter. Really.
Agreed.
You mean
there's
like
a forgivability sort of index to some of them,
right?
Yeah, Seinfeld's a perfect,
especially comedies, because comedies.
Yeah, dramas, and like science fiction and fantasy. It's a harder forgive because also they're way more expensive to make. An episode of Seinfeld, we could have pooled our funds over a weekend and filmed one. Now an episode of Game of Thrones costs as much as like half of a film. They're very expensive.
Yeah, it costs more than all of our houses put together.
Yeah, even in Arizona.
What do you mean? My house is going to be worth $1 million soon. Don't you know how the market is trending, Steve?
Have you ever looked at that Yakiway Instagram? I think they're trying to bring it. I'm not. I can't do another Amber Heard reference. I can't just do it. You've already done it. I was going to try to do it again.
Oh my goodness. But I think that's about all the time we have for today. What
objection? Hearsay.
Oh, that is hearsay.
You a bad man. Bad man, Blade.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to quote Seinfeld here. That last episode.
Yes.
Blade, are you drinking a mega pint of wine over there?
A mega pint.
It looks like it's in a chalice. It is.
It's a crystal wine glass. From
a distance, though, it looks... Wait, put it up next to the side of your face. I want to see how big this glass... Oh, it's a regular wine glass.
It's a regular
little while ago, you brought it by, and I'm like, oh my God, that's huge.
It was just because the camera.
That's how
That's how Lord of the Rings was shot, it's just all about your perspective,
It's all about the mega pints. That'll be the episode title, Mega Pint.
No, no one's gonna get
that. But what TV shows did you enjoy or not enjoy? Let us know on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or Nightcap Chat, all one word on Facebook and Twitter, and Nightcap _chat on Instagram. Lance?
You can catch me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at Tales of Lance. Just doing nonsense, playing games, and having fun.
And Steve? You can follow me on this network or on Ink and Paint. I don't really know how to type it out on Instagram anymore. We don't use it as effectively as we probably should, but we're on this network. And Jay and I are doing a show coming up, and there's already a ton of topics. We cover everything Disney, Marvel, all that crap, Star Wars. World of Color is returning to the parks. They just announced all the ride music for Guardians of the Galaxy, the ride that's opening up in a few weeks in Epcot. My buddy Steve, who works at the park, just got to do it in advance. Disney corporate, whatever. I'm not going to go through the list. Also, there's a lot of nonsense going on with Disney right now. Make sure you watch it, especially if you have a binder clip in front of your camera, because I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this episode.
And don't forget to follow Drawn to Comics, all one word, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Free Comic Book Day is coming up this weekend, May 7th, 2022, at Drawn to Comics, downtown Glendale, Arizona. Lots of fun stuff. You can find all the event information on the Drawn to Comics social media. You find all my nonsense on Blade O'Neill, all one word, on Instagram and Twitter, and Blade O'Neill VO on Facebook. We appreciate you all taking the time to listen. We love you. Be safe. And we'll catch you all next time.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.